you for coming to the World Storytelling Round through the World Storytelling Cafe, and in conjunction with me from Get a Word in Edgeways. I'm sorry to tell you, and it's really, really unsort of helpful of him, but John has had to fly to India to receive a couple of words. You
Oh,
know, I know it's hard work, but I know somebody's got to do it. And the old boy,
Oh, poor guy.
it's a really hard work. I did say that I'm sure that I could have found one of us to take his place for it, but he has absolutely managed to get himself all the way over there. I spoke to him this morning, and he sends his apologies. And so we'll just kick off as we go. Now, I've already asked Avita to go first, and then the batting order will be Keith, and then I fancy having to go because of something I want to do. And then we'll go to Baba and to Baden and to Roisin, and we'll see where we go from there.
Mike, may I say
So,
really, 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 really quick that
yeah.
David Thompson from Texas in the U.S. sends his regards. He wanted me to tell everybody he couldn't be with us this morning, but he wanted you to know that he's with us in spirit and heart.
Well, it's lovely to, and I hope whatever he's doing, he's having a far less enjoyable time than he would be sitting here with us.
Well, that's about it. He's putting together a very big storytelling festival, and I think, let me just say, he'll be glad when it's over so he can get some rest.
Oh, I know that feeling very well. I must admit, but still, we'll go from here. So I've asked Avita to go first, so we'll go to Avita, who I've got a feeling is sat exactly where I was a fortnight ago. And so Avita's going to kick us off, and then we'll go to Keith and the snowdrops. You're Avita, you're on mute. Tell Willie. There we go.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're fine.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I'm still in beautiful Marrakesh. I can tell you it's in my blood now. Very, very deeply. The dirt from Jemna Ufna, all the nice smells here at the cafe, and Essaouira. Now, tonight's story is dedicated to Amin, and it's still very, very new. But I know this is a safe place to try that. Walid, where's the photo of Amin? It's just in case you don't remember who Amin is, it's sort of important that you remember. Let's see if you can do it. No, you can't do it. Anyway. Wait, he's trying. Might work, it might not. So anyway, the story, I've made it for Amin. You might remember Amin as being one of the storytellers and helpers. He's got long dreadlocks and usually wears a white cape. And he looks like some Sufi dancer. There he is. Can everyone see him? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
we can see him. Yeah.
Okay. Amin, this story is for you. It's amazing how he has got such a beautiful energy, and he actually inspired this story when he came here with Fiona, and I sort of tried to share the bones of it at midnight. Now I'm working on it, and thank you for being my audience for this. Quite a long time ago, there lived a merchant about one day's camel ride away from Marrakesh. He lived out in the country with his family. He had 3 children. His youngest was born without the gift of sight. She was blind. And no one ever figured out why she also could not speak. So she was a blind mute, but she could hear. So she learned her world with her hands and her hearing. She would listen to the birds, what they had to say. But most of all, that young girl was dreaming of being an artist. She couldn't paint, She could read her brother's paintings because he was a great artist when he let her touch them when they were dry. She would sit for hours to listen to her sister's beautiful voice. She was called the Nightingale in that area. But she herself knew that she couldn't do either properly, for she couldn't see what she was doing. The family could see some longing in the child, so they made, under the shade of a palm tree, they made a pit that was always ready with beautiful, red, squishy mud, so the child could at least try to express her creativity. Well, she did. With her hands, she made beautiful little tagines. She made little sculptures of camels and the things she had felt, because as you know, she learned her world around her with her hands. But she wasn't happy. She was dreaming of something else. There must be something out there for her where she could express herself. One morning, the father came in and said, I have a surprise for you, family. I'm going to have quite a bit of business in Marrakesh in the next few months. And guess what? The next business trip, you are all coming with me. You are going to experience the magic of Gemna Ifna. Get ready. We are leaving at daybreak. Oh, how that child was excited to go outside the walls of her home. Everyone was ready and they took off. She took in the smells and the sounds as they traveled. And yes, she could hear Gemna Ifna from far, far away already, the hustle and the bustle. The father took the family to a circle, a halqa, and he sat them down and he said, sit here, or whatever you do, this is where I'm going to pick you up. Enjoy. And he rushed off to his merchant's meeting. The family sat. The Hakawaki came and began to tell stories. Oh, the little girl's heart soared. This was something so magical. She listened and a whole new world opened for her. Father picked them up again, and you could see a new smile on his daughter's face. When they got home, the child would not stop following her brother, sister, her mother, the servants, and her father around, pull on their robes and sign. They knew what she meant. Hakawakis and halka. Tell me a story, tell me a story. Every now and then, someone would sit down with her with a book, but that was not enough. Oh, she pursued her father from that day onwards. Every time he was getting ready to go to Marrakesh on business, she would pull on his robes. She would sign. She would sign. Please, please, she would sign, take me with you, take me with you. And the father, remembering how happy his youngest child had been last time he took her there, he decided it should be okay that she accompanied him on his trips. She would be safe enough. So there they were on Gemna Ifna, and he quietly took her by the hand and set her down in the halqa. And he said, daughter, I will be back in a few hours. Don't move from here. You hear? He didn't have to say it. You all know how she would have felt. She sat there and she listened to the stories. She listened, she took them in under her skin. She loved those stories so much. And so it was that once a month she got to go with her father and sit in a halqa and listen. After months of this, she began to recognize some of the stories. And one day, she could not help herself, but she got up and she began to dance, light as a bird. She danced and moved the words of the story. Someone pulled on her dress and pushed her down quite strictly. Do not do this, child. Sit down and listen. So she did. Her father picked her up. The next month, the same thing happened. So often did it happen that the people in the Halka were saying, please don't bring this child here anymore. All she does is fluff about. When the Hakawati is telling a story. The father took her aside and brought her home, and she looked sad. He knew how much the storytellers meant to her, so he brought her back the next month and found a new halka, a new circle. It was smaller, and there was a storyteller no one had seen before. He had come from the coast. The child was sat down. The father whispered, please, don't move until I get back. I will pick you up again. Now behave. And she did. She sat down. But she could smell the storyteller. She could smell the sea on him. Her heart could feel his beautiful energy. And then he began the stories. His voice was gentle yet powerful. And after about 5 minutes into the story, the little girl could not help herself. And she got up and she began to dance and dance. Someone reached over and grabbed her and said, sit down, child. The Hakawati stopped. He walked over to the child and he knelt down in front of her. He let her learn his face with her hands. She felt him. She put her little hands on his heart and she smiled. Then he had long roped hair. She held on to one of those ropes to stop herself from sinking. And he took her by the hand and he said, let her dance. And he told the story and the little girl danced. So every month when she got there, she was allowed to dance with him. She looked happier every day. One day, her father brought her there. And he saw that the Hakawati had a small cape made for the girl. He put it around her. It had little wings. And he said, Arush, that was her name, my little angel, you are ready. You are ready to tell your stories now. Then he stepped back and he said to the circle, today's stories are being told by our young Arush. And Arush got up. The crowd was so quiet. She got up and she danced and danced. And you know something, my friends? Everybody understood what she was dancing. She moved and she moved, her heart nearly bursting out of her. The storyteller, the Hakawati, he just stood there and watched her and smiled. So if you're very lucky, next time in Morocco, anywhere, you might come to a square where you see a young girl, Arush, which means divine angel, that has no sight and no words, but she will dance a story for you.
Well, lovely, Evita. Thank you very much. Yes, if that's a new story, I can see how that will grow and it will go to the 3 and the 7. And it'll be one that you tell for a long time. I can see that happening. Right, so I'm going to go to Keith. Then it'll be me, then it'll be Baba. So over to you, Keith, with the snowdrops in the background.
Yeah, that's right. Well, at the beginning of time, the Creator made the heavens and the earth. He made all kinds of plants and animals, and he gave them lots of different colours. He gave red to the squirrels, and brown to the hare and the rabbit. And you ought to see the peacock with all the colours that it has. And he gave out all the colours to the different flowers that he had created. And what happened was that he ran out of colour. And when Snow went to the Creator to say, can I have some colour? But the Creator said, well, I've run out of colour. I haven't got any left. you better go and ask maybe one of the flowers to share something of their colour, and so that you be okay with that. And so Snow, he searched around, and he eventually he met Daffodil, the beautiful yellow daffodil with the trumpet and the petals. And he said to Daffodil that the creators run out of colour, and suggested I come and try and ask them a little bit of colour from one of the flowers. And would you share some of your colour with me? But the daffodil said, no, I cannot possibly do that. With my horn and my petals, I'm looking out to the sun to gather as much yellow as I can. And no, I can't possibly share it. No, you better go and ask somebody else. So Snow, he went and he searched and searched around, and eventually he came to Bluebell and said to Bluebell, the creators run out of colour, and suggested that I asked maybe one of the flowers to share one of their colours. Would you share some of your blue? But the Bluebell said, well, I can't possibly do that, because if you were a shade of blue and I covered the woodland floor with my flowers, that there'd be some confusion. Nobody will know which is which and what is what. No, I can't possibly share any of my colour, my blue, with you. And so Snow, who was transparent, was very downhearted. And then he heard a little voice from a little flower. The little flower said, I hear that you are looking for some colour. Now, I've got lots of white. Perhaps you could have some of mine. And the little snowdrop, he scraped inside of his petal and gave some of the white to Snow. And if you look inside a snowdrop, you'll see there's a little streak of green where it scraped off the white to give to Snow. And so Snow, he was very happy. He wasn't transparent. He just needed that little bit of white. And he said to Snowdrop, because you've been very generous with your colour white, you will be able to poke your flowers out of the cold earth at the beginning of the year, through my blanket of snow, and you'll be the first sign that winter is ending and that spring is on its way. And that's the story of Snowdrop, and how it's the first flower you see in the spring. Now, behind me, you will see some woodland. And that woodland is what I inherited from my father. And he planted lots and lots of snowdrops, and he cultivated them. And so now they're spread all over the area of my woodland. And every spring I see the snowdrops, and I remember my dad, who planted all those snowdrops.
And what was your dad's name, Keith?
Jeff Butters, Jeff.
Jeff. Well, I would like to come and visit with you one day, and you can take me to this woodland. And
Yeah.
I commend Jeff Butters to this day, because if that's we have snowdrops like you do, and we call them the harbinger of the spring. They're the first bit of, and everybody enjoys them. Everybody looks for them because they know that we've probably one good kick left in the winter, but we'll get them there when they turn up and all things.
Yeah.
And then we've got 9 months of winter and festivals to go to and all the things that happen in summers and things like that. So
Yeah, it's quite remarkable how they come out of the cold earth so early, much earlier than in any of the other flowers. And in this particular woodland, soon there'll be some daffodils that will actually grow as well. He planted some daffodils, and so it's a cycle.
The daffs here are going to be early this year.
Yeah.
They're almost out. Some are out already, but they're going to be early this year, which is
Yeah,
always
there's
a
no
good
sign
sign.
of daffodils yet in Lincolnshire, but yeah, they'll be
Oh,
along
ours
soon.
is, they're standing tall. They just haven't dropped their heads yet. So a good couple of good days of sun whenever that happens. Right, it must be me then. So I'm going to tell you this story because I'm doing a personal story swap, which is on Saturday with Sanim on the 21st of February, and it's 12:30 UK time. And because I had to go and do something else related to storytelling and festivals this morning, I missed the practice and the workshop. So, and the same as Avita, and I say to lots of people here that come and try a new story here. It's a good place for you to start a new story. And if you ever want to do workshops and things and workshop a new story, come and ask, and we'll put a team together to do it. And that's what Sanim does. So it goes like this. One of the things that happened to me not so long ago was I met John Rowe, COVID, the World Storytelling Cafe, and I started doing a fortnightly story round in conjunction with them. And ever since, we hardly missed one. We sometimes don't do it in the summer, and Waleed is over there and everything else. And from the very early days, there was the first Marrakeshian Storytelling Festival, and it's a biannual festival. It goes to the second one. And for the first two, I couldn't go. I did go in between times just to pop in the November, and Amy Douglas, my great storytelling friend, she laughed and said, "You're the only storyteller that went to Marrakesh just to be by himself and not meet all the other storytellers, Mike. How did you manage to do that?" But the reason I couldn't go is my wife, Lynn, she's had a serious medical problem to do with her heart. Now, we call it a dicky ticker. Now, dicky ticker is an expression my father and my grandfather would have used for someone who's got a heart that's not performing properly for all sorts of things. And she's had 4 quite serious operations because of that. And the last one was about 90 days ago. And here's a proper Shropshire expression for you. Each day she's got a bit better. Now, I know that Yasmina over there speaks 5 different languages, but I bet you, probably if you go back to the sources of the Greek and Roman languages, you'll find the word better, as I'm sure it's been used for that long back. Anyway, she was feeling a little bit better, so all is good. But the last time she was in hospital, and she was in there for 12 days. And me and Hattie, we missed her tremendously, and we used to go and visit her. Well, they wouldn't let Hattie in, but they'd take her in. And I contacted my friend Taffy Thomas and told him all about it. We were chatting away on the phone one day, and Taffy wrote a letter, because you all know that Taffy Thomas himself had a heart attack, but he had his in 1983. Now, that when you put a pacemaker in, which is what Lynn's had, it goes with the technology of that day and of that era. So when it happened to Taffy, his was a clockwork one. And every 7 years or so, he's got to have to take his pacemaker out and have to put a new battery in it and put it back in. And it's quite a serious operation. And he's had that done 7 times that I know of. And I have done this myself. You put your ear to where his heart is, and you can hear it going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, like a very quiet clock. And when he came home from the first time, he sat down and they went to bed. He and Chrissy went to bed. Chrissy is his wife, Rosie and Sam, the children, and all that. And Chrissy went, "I don't think I can actually go to sleep. All I can hear is your pacemaker going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock." So Taffy, God bless him, says, "Well, if it stops, you'll be the second one to know." So there's so much Taffy, it's unbelievable, right? So Taffy sits down and sends Linda a card, and he writes all this out in a letter, and he says it to Lynn. There's always life after having a heart attack and having pacemakers put in. Take it day by day, and I've lived 1983 till now, which was 2025. So I go into hospital and I look down and there's a card, and in the card there's a letter. And I read the letter because it's come from Tappy, and I start laughing. And next door, in the bed next door, there's a 14-year-old little girl with the most worried mother you have ever seen in your life. Her mother was absolutely devastated, and she sat there, and there's almost a pool of tears around the chair she's in, and a 14-year-old little girl, and she's down there, and the 14-year-old little girl, she'd been playing netball, and she'd had a heart attack. And they brought her in and they put her in the bed next door. And then this is the cardiac ward in New Cross, which is one of the best hospitals, they tell me, in the whole of England. It's in the West Midlands and everything else. So I stand up and I take the letter and I read the letter to her. And her mother starts laughing. And the little girl starts laughing. And just then we don't seem to have sisters on the wards anymore in our hospitals. We have matrons. The matron for the ward was there, and she said, "What's all this about?" So I told her as well. And she started laughing, and she took this letter that Tappy had, put it on a photocopier, came back and gave me the original, which I still have. I said, "What are you going to do with that?" She said, "Oh, we're having a matrons meeting." So once a month it is. The grown-ups, which was her word, say that we've all got to talk to them. And it's quite a boring meeting because they just say, "I haven't got any money." And we say, "We can't do our jobs without you giving us the facilities." And we've been saying it for years. And she went, "Oh, well, I'm going to start off with telling them." So she went along to the matrons meeting, as all the matrons for the hospital, and the big white chief was there. And she was the chief administrator to the hospital. She is a doctor, but it's not a medical degree. It's like she's got a degree like, in English languages or something. And she takes it and says, "Give me that." Goes and photocopies it, comes back and gives all the matrons one and says, "I want you to stand up and tell everybody in the hospital what this fella Tappy Thomas is." And when I go back into hospital the next day, she sat there waiting for me. She says, "I want to know who you are." So I have to sit down and I have to explain who Tappy Thomas is. A very great friend of mine, and he's got an MBE. Now, for those of you that don't come from the UK, an MBE is a gong. It's a medal that our king gives away. Well, it was the Queen back then. And there's a couple that Liz Weir's got one, Tappy's got one, and MBE, his proper name, is a member of the British Empire. It goes back years and years and years. Colloquially, it's known as my blinking effort. So the other one they give is the OBE, which is called other buggers effort. So if you get an OBE, they're giving it to the team, but if you get an MBE, they're giving it to you. So Tappy's got one of those. So I have to explain all that and everything else. And then she wants to know about the storytelling. So we tell her all about storytelling, And she says, "Well, the two of you, I want to say thank you to. And when you see your friend Tappy Thomas again, tell him these words. It's the first time we've heard laughter in our hospital since COVID." So there's a personal story swap on the 21st of February at 12:30 UK time that Saneem runs. Saneem Danathan Mohan. I'm sure I'm pronouncing her name wrong. It's taken me 5 years to get your Spina right. Okay. All right. So that's going to be on next Saturday, and I'm going to do that one. And I just wanted to run through it once because it's a personal one and I hadn't done it before. And I think it's a bit of fun. Okay. So we're going to go to Baba next. Baba.
All right. Well, first of all, I truly appreciated that story. That is good. Now, I don't need a pacemaker, but I did have a heart condition years ago. And my doctor wants me to do a follow-up just to make sure I'm still doing okay. I'm breathing, so I think I'm doing okay. But that was a heartfelt story, pun intended. All right.
Well, I think it's quite good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to share a story that's a little bit out of my, will work, but it's a story I would not ordinarily tell, but I am doing things to step outside of my comfort zone. Although when it comes to storytelling is my comfort zone. But this story is, it's a little bit different. And then I have a short riddle which Baden cannot partake in because I think he heard me tell the riddle before. All right. So this story is a love story of sorts. You see, there was a man who came from modest means. Now, today, modest means would mean he was poor. But this man came from modest means, but he had very good business sense. And he soon began to use his business sense, and he had managed to amass himself a huge business, and he was making lots of money. And the more money he made, the more money he wanted. The more money he wanted, the more money he made. And this man had a very, very good house. He had servants. He had everything. And he saw a woman that he just knew he had to have as his wife. And he wooed her, and he wooed her, and he wooed. That's kind of an inside joke. But finally she consented and said yes. Now this man, despite his wealth, was a bit of a miser. No, he wasn't a bit of a miser. If you looked up the word miser, you would see his picture. This man did not want to spend money on anything he did not have to. And he begrudgingly spent money on his wife because he wanted her happy. And she loved him, but she soon discovered that he seemed to love money more than he loved her. And he did not want to spend money unless the man didn't even want to spend money on food. And he had to eat. Fortunately, she was a great cook, and he would begrudgingly give her enough money to make the wonderful food that he enjoyed eating. But he did not like to spend money. He paid his servants as little as he could. He did not want to spend money. And one day he sat down with his wife and he says, if I should go before you, I want you to listen very careful. If I should go before you, I want you to bury me with all of my money, with all of my richness. I want it in the coffin with me. Do you understand? And she said, yes, but are you? No, this is what I want. When I die, I want all of my wealth buried with me. This is not open for discussion. This will be done. Now, I'm quite sure she thought, but what will happen to me? But she said, okay, my husband, I hear you. I will honor this. You must make the promise. And she promised that when he died, she would bury his wealth with him. Well, that sad day did eventually come, and he died. And being the frugal man that he was, he barely wanted to spend any money on his funeral, but he did, or they did, because he wasn't here anymore. And so people came to pay their respect. And just before they lowered his coffin into the ground, she stepped forward with a box, a very plain box, and she placed the box in the coffin with him. They closed the coffin, and they lowered it into the ground. And her best friend said, wait, what was that about? Surely you're not burying him with all of his wealth. She said, I made a promise, and I'm a good person. I am a good person of my religion. I do not lie. I made a promise, and I have kept my promise. She said, but you put all of his wealth in the coffin. How will you live? She said, when he died, I took all the money, put it in my private account, and then I wrote a check for the entire amount, and I put that in the coffin with him. Thank you. So here's the riddle. And Baden, I'm sure you've heard this before, so please don't give it away. And this is one of my favorite riddles, and Mike, you may have heard it before. So the riddle was this. You wake up one day, and you're in a brick room. Not a brick house. That's another story. In a brick room. The walls are made of brick. The ceiling is made of brick. The floors are made of brick. There are no windows and no doors. The only thing in the room with you is an old saw and an old table. How do you get out? Do 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 do.
I know.
Uh-oh. Yes?
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
Hang
the
on. Sorry, Rashid. Was it the little girl?
A young man. There's a young man here.
Young man, I
Ah.
can't.
Come here and give the answer. Come here.
Come on.
He thinks he knows the riddle?
Yeah, no, here he goes. Yeah, sorry, Rashid, but you won't stop.
Oh, that's
Right.
it.
First, what's your name?
Benjamin.
All right. Okay, Benjamin, how do you're in a room, brick walls, brick ceiling, brick floor, no door, no windows. The only thing is a saw and an old table. How do you get out?
You cut the table in half. 2 halves make a hole. You jump in the hole. You scream until your voice goes hoarse. You get on the horse and you ride out the hole out of the open way.
Right.
Benjamin,
Oh,
you
hang
are
on a minute.
correct, sir. You are correct.
Right, 2 things. Right, hang on a minute, Ben. 2 things. Right, excuse me, Rasheen. What were you going to say?
Well, there's one bit you can add to that, because that is a riddle that my old dad used to tell us. But there was no saw in the room, because what you have to do is you rub your hands together until they're sore, and you use the saw to cut the table in half.
Ah,
Right.
I saw that coming.
Right. Right.
Benjamin!
Excuse me, one other thing. Avita, are you still there? I can't see you. Avita, is she there? Avita? Avita, have you still got a certificate left?
Yes, without any right. Ah, yes, I get what you mean.
Yeah? Have you still got
Yeah,
one?
I think Pauline's got, yes.
Yes. If you have, can you make it happen, please?
Yes, I will. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, thank you.
Wait, I gotta ask Benjamin. You had a bit more to your reply. Would you repeat your reply again so my old ears can hear?
Right.
What did you say together?
the answer.
Right.
You use the saw to cut the table in half.
Just sort of come around here.
2 halves make a hole. You jump in the hole. You scream until your voice is hoarse, and you ride the horse out.
All right. Thank you,
Okay,
Benjamin. You just made my day. You just made my day. It's still early here in the States. All right, but Benjamin, where are you from?
I'm from Guernsey in the Channel Islands near France.
All right, okay.
All right,
Right,
all
okay.
right.
So,
Benjamin, yes.
Guernsey and the Channel Islands, I've been there. I'm a bit Alderney and everything else. While we're still talking about this, there is another, because Donald will know something else, because there's a custom up in Scotland that Duncan Williamson told me about, that if you owe somebody some money when they die, Baba, up in the Highlands of Scotland, you take the money that you owe them and you go and buy some whiskey, and you put the bottle of whiskey in the coffin, and that repays the debt that you would have had. But because they're Scottish and they're up in the Highlands, they like to be able to filter it through a kidney first.
Oh, oh,
That's
oh,
what I'll be doing in
Whoa.
your cave, mate.
Which is a more grown-up version of what you leave in coffins.
Well, if anyone
So-
puts any alcohol, well, it's going to be hard to put alcohol in my coffin since I'm going to be cremated. But
Right.
if any of you should be, if for those that survive beyond me, if whiskey is your favorite drink, have a whiskey in honor of me. However, my favorite drink is rum. So please have a glass of rum or 2 or 3 or 4, not you, Benjamin, or 5 or 6 in honor of me. But I plan to be around for a bit more.
Well, yeah, well, as long as you plan to be around for a bit more, that's fine.
Yeah,
So gonna
I'm
go
sorry.
back
I'm
to the
still so
story.
excited. I'm still so excited that Benjamin. One more question. How old is Benjamin?
I'm 12.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
Great.
So no
Okay.
worries, Baba. By the time you get into a coffin, Benjamin will be an adult.
Yes, and beyond. Yes, yes,
Right,
yes.
so I'm going to go to Baden now. So, Baba, you have to be quiet and let him
Just
do his
screen
bit.
up and right in the middle of the screen. Yeah, he's from Greece.
Put it
Okay,
closer,
right.
closer, closer.
So
Close.
we
Already.
just seem to
That's
we
close
just
to the
seem to happen. because we've been working with a school over in Marrakesh, I was there. I had some certificates made up, and I reckon that Benjamin's just told a story to us. And if you tell a story to us, you get a certificate. So Vita, would you please hand the
Shake his hand.
certificate to Benjamin and say thank you from me. I am the director of this Get a Word in Edgeways Storytelling Festival in Shropshire. Plus, and this will come from Mike Wood as well, who is the director of the World Storytelling Cafe. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for helping that poor illiterate storyteller from America who didn't know the answer to the story that he told. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Thank you very much. Yay!
Without further ado, Benjamin gets from the World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh Certificate of Excellence awarded to Benjamin for wonderful storytelling and riddle solving.
Yes, yes. All right, Benjamin's made my day.
Well done. And if that's your dad, you need to have that framed and put in your bedroom, mate. Okay.
We can arrange that.
Actually got that detailed up here today.
And I don't know if you can see, Benjamin, but that one up there is the one I was given when I was over there at the festival this time last year. So that's the Guinness Book. I've had it framed and put up there. That's mine. Okay. So I'm going to go to Baden next. Baden.
And I'm going to stand.
Oh, you got to stand. Wow.
Actually, no.
Aiden's going to
I'll stand up. Can I? Yeah, there I am. So, wow, that was these people just turned up at the cafe to have a snack, and they've ended up having a full-blown storytelling session downstairs.
So in the hope that there would be stories.
Well, your dreams have come true.
Yeah.
So the story I'm going to tell tonight is quite a new one, a very new one. In fact, I only heard it when I arrived on. So I'm not actually trying to do a striptease. I'm trying to work out which side I'm to pull up my T-shirt. And it's a Nasruddin story, it turns out. And as most of you know, I love Nasruddin stories. Nasruddin, if you don't know, is a Middle Eastern character. And he's meant to be either very clever or very stupid, depending on the nature of the story. Think Forrest Gump. Okay. He's so deep that, you know, he's a fount of wisdom, or he's a dimwit. And in this particular story, this is called Nasruddin and the Nail. And times were hard. Times had really gone, you know, his business had gone down. He'd run around and borrow money. He borrowed money from Donald Nelson, which is quite an achievement. I'm not going to say any more, but those in the know, no. And he found himself in a position where he couldn't pay the money back. And one of the people he borrowed money from was his neighbor. Now, his neighbor was a guy called Aziz. And Aziz came to him pretending to be wanting to help him out, but actually, Nasruddin's father had passed away and left him a very, very nice house. And Aziz had his eye on Nasruddin's house. So he came to Nasruddin and he said, Nasruddin, you know that money I lent you? I think it's about time that you paid me back. And Nasruddin, of course, couldn't pay him back. He just didn't have the money. And Aziz said, not a problem, not a problem. I'll take the house off you. And I get the title to your house. Your debt is cleared. We're all even. Now, Nasruddin knew that the house was worth way more than the amount of money that he borrowed from Aziz. But Aziz had him over a barrel. There's nothing he could do, or was there? So he said to Aziz, okay, it's a deal, but I'll agree to it on one condition and one condition only. And Aziz said, what's that? He said, well, my father actually built this house with his bare hands from the ground up. When he was about to finish it, there was one nail, a copper nail that he was about to hammer into the living room wall. And something happened, I'm not sure, I think the hammer broke or he banged his thumb and he decided it was bad luck or whatever. But he never finished banging that nail into the wall. And that nail is of great sentimental value to me because I look at it and I remember my father, and I kneel and I pray before it, and I celebrate him and I remember him. Would you please let me retain ownership of that nail? That's all I want. And as he thought to himself, what harm can it do? And he said, yes, okay. And Azzedine said, can I write into our contract that I own the nail and that I can visit it from time to time and kneel down and pray and remember my father? And as he thought, stupid man. Yeah, sure, of course, Azzedine, no problem. So Azzedine wrote up the contract. Nasruddin wrote up the contract, came, as he signed it, and he signed over his house. Every single square inch, every tile, every drop of paint, every strip of wood, everything except the nail. And as he's moved in, and that first night, as he lay in his bed, looking around this magnificent new house, which was now his, about 9 o'clock in the evening, there was a knock on the door. Oh, could that be coming to here? And he went down, there was Nasruddin at the door. And Nasruddin said, I've just come to visit my nail. And as he thought, well, this is a little bit inconvenient, but yeah, sure, come on in. Nasruddin went in, he walked up to the nail and he knelt on the floor and he reflected and he muttered a few things under his breath. And then he took off his turban and hung it on the nail and turned to leave. And as he said, hey, Nasruddin, aren't you forgetting something? Nasruddin said, no, it's my nail. I can do what I want with it. And as he said, really? Nasruddin said, read the contract. And off he went. About 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a banging on the front door. Bang, bang, bang. He thought, what's going on? Is there a fire? What's happening? Is it the police? Ran downstairs, opened the door. There's Nasruddin, hatless, and he's carrying a coat draped over his arm. And now, as he's beginning to get a bit annoyed at this, he's getting a bit fed up, and he says, do you know what time it is? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What on earth are you doing here? And why aren't you wearing your coat? It's cold outside. Well, said Nasruddin, you see, I remember my father. I woke up thinking about my father, and something told me that wherever he is, he must be cold. So I brought this coat to hang it on the nail to give to my dad. And so I remember him safe and warm. And as he said, you can't do that. And Nasruddin said, of course I can. It's my nail. I can do what I like. As he's beginning to think he made a mistake, but he had to agree. And Nasruddin went up, lifted up the turban, hung the coat on the nail, put the turban back on top of the coat, and off he went. About 2 weeks later, Aziz is thinking, right, that's it, I've seen the last of him. He's got some friends over, he's having them up for a meal, there's food, there's drink, there's music playing. In the middle of the fete, bang, bang, bang on the door, he opens it. And Nasruddin turns up, and he's carrying a dead sheep slung over his shoulder. And as he said, where do you think you're going with that? Well, said Nasruddin, I got this sheep from the butcher, and I need somewhere to hang it. And as I don't have anywhere of my own, I decided I'd come and hang it on my nail. And he stepped in the house, and as his wife said, get that creature out of here. That's not going to happen. Nasruddin says, read the contract. And he went and he took off his cloak, took off his coat, took off his turban, and he hung the dead sheep by the scruff of its neck on the nail. And then he turned and he went out. Now, can you imagine a week and a half, 2 weeks later, the stench of that rotting carcass in the house? And Aziz said, no, I can't stand this anymore. And he went to the judge, and the judge called a circle of the wise men of the village, and they all met and they went through the contract, every word on every line. And they said to Aziz, unfortunately, this contract is watertight. It's Nasruddin's nail, and he can do with it exactly as he wants, and you've got no right to touch his property. And with that, Aziz realized that the only way he was going to get rid of this problem was to sell the house back to Nasruddin. Right, Nasruddin, he said, you borrowed 1,000 dirham from me. Give me 1,000 dirham, take back your house. Nasruddin said, well, 1,000 dirham is a bit steep. I don't really have that kind of money right now. And Aziz was so fed up, so they said, give me 500 dirham. And Nasruddin said, can't really manage that. How much can you manage? Said Aziz. Nasruddin said, tell you what, how about I give you the nail? And that's the way Nasruddin ended up getting his house back and living happily in his house ever after.
Babe, that was exceptional. Especially, I mean, that was exceptional.
Well, Baden, when we get to, you come up to Shropshire in your car, somewhere in my house, I've got a book from Grace Holdsworth about Nasruddin stories. I'll have to sort it out. She was a great lady. I don't know if you knew her, but she used to tell those stories. She was the chief librarian to Hertfordshire for many years. Right,
I love that. Going to meet us.
One-legged. I'll hop along here, my friend.
What's up?
Hi, everybody. The story I'm going to tell you tonight, before I tell you it, most of you, I think, know I've broken a bone in my leg whilst being nearly 2,000 miles away from home. But this holiday hasn't just been about a broken leg. We were supposed to get the ferry across the Bay of Biscay, but due to the storms, that was put off 3 times. We had to drive down to Dover, go to Dover to Calais, drive right the way through France and Spain in torrential rain. It's the most terrifying journey either of us have ever had, because the spray meant you couldn't actually see where you were going. It was a hell of a journey, and it was so heavy rain and wind when we got to our apartment. The first day we spent mopping the floor where the wind was blowing the rain under the door. On Wallace's birthday, one of the things I did was manage to lose my handbag, which happened to have all the money, my phone, and our passports in it for 3 hours. Fortunately, it turned out I'd left it in the restaurant, and it all turned out all right afterwards, but it was the tensest 3 hours of my life. So, and it was only after that, to cap it, that I broke my leg. Now, some people in this situation might find themselves feeling a bit fed up and miserable. By the way, today is the first day we haven't had storms. We've had gusts of winds at 85 to 90 miles an hour blowing across. The only thing we haven't had, we've missed the floods that have been throughout most of Spain. So it's not been our best trip, to be fair. But I am not downhearted, and there is a reason for this. And the reason is that a story that I was told, I was working with some storytellers in Israel and Palestine 19 years ago. And I didn't get this story from my fellow storytellers. I got it from a merchant in the back streets of the old Jerusalem. And he was just a merchant who got talking to me. And when I told him I was a storyteller, he said, I've got a story for you. And I'm going to tell you this story now. And this story is about King Solomon, wise King Solomon, and about how he became so wise. Now, King Solomon, as we all know, was very rich. He had a great palace. He had slaves. He had servants. He had riches. And he had a vizier, a guy who did a lot of his business for him. And this vizier was very honest. He was very loyal to Solomon, but he was a bit of a big head. Now, one day, Solomon was walking through his rose garden, and he heard the voice of his vizier. And the vizier was talking to some of the other servants, and he was going, oh, yes, you know, King Solomon trusts me with everything, because there's nothing I can't do for King Solomon. If he wants anything, I can give it to him. You know, if he wants me to get him a fine horse, I can get him. Better slaves, I can get it. There's nothing King Solomon couldn't ask me for that I couldn't get him. Now, Solomon thought, you know, he's a great chap and he's great and loyal, but he is a big head. and he needs teaching a lesson. He needs bringing down a peg or two, and I'm going to play a trick on him. So Solomon sent for this man, and he said, my vizier, you're a good man, and you can get me almost anything. Oh, not just almost anything, Your Majesty, I could get you anything. Well, good, said Solomon, because I've heard of something that I really, really want. And it is this. I have heard that there is a magical ring somewhere in the world that will make a rich man happy, a rich man sad, and a poor man happy, and its power will last forever. And I want you to find me that ring. Oh, no problem. Might take me a bit of time. Well, you've got a year exactly to the day to find that ring. And the vizier said, leave it with me, Solomon. I'm sure I can do it. Well, Solomon sent him off. And of course, he didn't think he would find the ring because Solomon had just made it up. And so he fully anticipated that in a year's time, the vizier would have to come back, say he'd failed, and then Solomon would give him a lecture about not being such a big head. So off went the vizier. And at first, he looked around all of Jerusalem in the finest shops, the finest jewelers. He couldn't find this. None of them knew about this ring. And one of them said, well, you know, I've heard that if you go to Marrakesh, there are mystics there that may be able to help you. And so the vizier started his journey, and he went to Marrakesh, and he looked round and he asked everywhere he could, do you know of a magical ring that will make a rich man sad and a happy poor man happy? No, nobody knew. But somebody said, well, you know, if you go to Istanbul, I believe, you know, they have magic and wonders there beyond all our knowledge. And so off he went to Istanbul, and he tried the same thing, but nobody knew. He went to all of the major cities of the known world. Each week, each month, somewhere new. He tried all of the amazing, he found the wise men, he found the priests, he found the jewelers, anybody that might have a clue. And nobody had heard of this ring, which is not surprising. And the year had turned. And it was in only a few days before the vizier was due to go back to King Solomon. And so he turned round and he made the journey back to Jerusalem. And of course, when he got to his house, his servants and his family, they all greeted him. They took off his travel-stained clothes. He was bathed, he was perfumed, he was fed nice food. He was back, but he didn't feel great about it because he knew he was going to have to face his king with failure. And so that night he went out onto the streets of Jerusalem, not really thinking he was going to go and find anything, but he was walking around, reacquainting himself with the city. And he found himself in one of the poorest parts of the Medina, where there weren't fine goods on sale. They were just people with little bits of rug or carpet in front of them, with a few mean things that they'd made. And the vizier came, and in a corner under a little tiny oil lamp was a young boy with a piece of rag in front of him. And on that rag, there were some really cheap bits of jewelry and some rings. And the vizier was very wistful, and he looked at this young boy, who was about 8 years old, and he said, young man, I don't suppose you've heard of a magical ring that has the power to make a rich man sad and a poor man happy, whose power will last forever? And the young man said, no, sir. Well, suddenly the pile of rags that were in the corner started to move, and a voice said, I know what you want. And the vizier looked round, and as the rags started to move, they kind of unpeeled themselves, and there, hunched in the corner, was the grandfather of the little boy, and the person who actually made the jewellery. And he said, I can help you for a price. He said, Abdul, pass me one of those rings, a nice fat one. And the boy passed the grandfather one of these cheap rings, and the grandfather rummaged in his pocket and he got out a nail, and he got the ring and he started scratching something in the middle of it. He put the nail away and he said to the vizier, here is your ring. And the vizier read what the ring said, and he smiled for the first time in a year, and he gave the man a bag of money, more than the man normally made in a year. And he said, you richly deserve that. And he put the ring in his pocket carefully, and he went home, and for the first time in a long time, he slept soundly. And the next day he presented himself at court, and King Solomon was on his throne, waiting to deliver the lecture about not being such a big head. And he said, well, my vizier, have you found me the magical ring? And to Solomon's shock, the man said, Yes, Your Majesty, I have. And everybody thought this was amazing. And he took this poorly made little ring out of his pocket and he handed it to Solomon. And Solomon looked at the ring and he read the inscription. And he sat back and he said, well, my vizier, I didn't think you'd do this. I didn't think you would find anything like this for me. But you have. And I will cherish this forever. And as I've said, this has the power to make a rich man sad, a poor man happy, and its power will last forever. And I will wear that for the rest of my life. And they say that's where Solomon got his wisdom. Because you see, what the old man had scratched is a saying into that ring. And the saying is this too shall pass. And Solomon, the richest man of the kingdom, saw all his riches, saw all of his achievements, and realized that one day he wouldn't be there, but that would. And you know what? When I think about the lousy journey, the lousy weather, the broken leg, I think of Solomon and that ring. This too shall pass. And that's why I'm smiling. Thank you.
All this will pass, yes. I was looking at some old books to do with the Anglo-Saxons, Roisin, and they have pretty much the same story, but the last few lines was this: that passed away, so can this.
I
And
have
they
a
brought it, and they brought it, and it's to do with bead and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's from the New Old Testament. The Jewish tradition would say it's in the Old Testament and it's theirs, and they take claim ownership of it and everything else. But it's a slightly different way of saying it. So, and that's a lovely story, well told. And all this will pass, and you'll sit there in the sun with a Wallace and a drum of whiskey. But it'll be the last day before you have to come back to the UK, and the daffodils will be out when you come back. Okay?
Absolutely.
Roisin, your story reminded me, life is often like a roller coaster for me, and I don't like roller coasters, but that's another story. But when I'm faced with challenges, my mantra is, and this too shall pass, for something better my way comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've literally been in situations where it's like, what the fill in the blank am I going to do? I've been in situations like that, really terrible. But if it wasn't for that experience, I would not have been able to receive the blessing beyond. So, and this too shall pass, for something better my way comes. Thank you so much, Asante.
Yeah.
Shukran.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's lovely to hear these old stories retold, and particularly by a master storyteller. So I have two. It's Jaspina and I have Rona. You both came a little bit late, and I haven't been able to grab a chance to see if you want to tell a story. Jaspina always does, so I'm hoping that she's going to put her son up and tell a story. And Rona, how are you feeling tonight? Are you doing one, my friend? Right. So we'll go Jaspina first, and then Rona. Okay.
Right. Roisin, I love that story. I've heard it before, not as a King Solomon story, as another folktale, another version of it, but I like your version better. Very, very good telling. Thank you. So, thinking of bad things happening and waiting for new good things to come, let us hope. I have a difficulty when it comes to people who are lonely. And recently, in the last storm we had here, huge waves hitting the dock and everything, an old lady drowned. She was 104. And it's not my custom to repeat rumor, but people talk, and people said that she took her own life. I don't know for a fact if that is true. I can imagine that it is a very old age to be living at 104. Probably most, if not all of your friends, you will have outlived them. Maybe you will even have lost offspring, who knows, at that age. So thinking about that old lady, And apologies, my lovely Rona, because you have heard the tale before. I want to share this story with you. Once there was an old lady, and she was standing at the threshold of her door of her house with a broom in her hands, whoosh, 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 whoosh. And she was cleaning the threshold when from far away, from up on the hill, down the path came a very tall, very bony, very black figure. And it seemed to be not walking down the path, but more like sliding over it. And when that figure approached the old lady, she could see the black cloak and the black hood and 2 burning coals in the holes where his eyes should be. Old lady, you will come with me, for it is time. Yes, thank you. But you see, today it is my 100th birthday, and I have a habit of inviting all my family, my extended family, my sons, my daughters, their children, to come and have a celebration at my house. So please, I would like a favor. I want us to finish the celebration, and once the party is done, I will come with you, okay? Now, the Death had not been talked back to like this before. He was taken aback, let's say. He was discombobulated, if you like. So he did not answer, which gave the old lady the chance to continue. Look, take this broom, continue swapping here my threshold, and I'll go inside because I have the food, you see, on the kitchen. I'll go make sure I give it a nice round with the spoon so it doesn't get stuck on the pan. You know, you finish the brooming, the swapping, please. I am Death. I do not swap doorsteps. Well, look, it's not like it's anything difficult. You see here, you take hold of the broom. Look, take hold of the broom. Death puts his bony fingers around the broomstick. And you do like this, whoosh, 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 and you clean. All right, I'll be inside. And there she was, off in the kitchen. Well, Death was there, looking at the broom in his hands, in his fingers, and, well, he started swapping the floor. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In a little while, the old lady comes back. He says, thank you, dear, that's fine, that's good enough. Come inside now. I want you to stir the food so it doesn't get stuck, because I'll be inside putting on my nice dress and doing my hair for my family who will be visiting, you know. I am Death. I do not stir food. Well, look, dear, look, come here. Do you see the spoon? You take it in your hand and you sort of make this circular movement. It's not hard. Every now and then. Okay, I'll be inside. There was Death in the kitchen, above the pot. Wooden spoon in bony fingers. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Stirring every now and then. And then out comes the old lady and she says, look, I'm not ready yet. Just in case any of my relatives come and I'm not out to greet them, please just open the door and let them in, okay? I am Death. I do not open doors. Yes, that's fine. I get what you're saying, but look, you just open the door and smile and let them in, okay? It's not difficult, please, thank you. And off she was, in her bedroom, doing her hair with her pins and everything. So, a while later, what do you know? A knock on the door, and there is Death opening the door. Now, outside, there is a young couple, and they're staring, smile frozen upon their lips, holding the present, not entirely sure of what to do. And then the woman, she elbows her husband and she says, Is that who I think it is? And the man says, I don't know, but I think he's smiling. Let's go in. And in they go. And a while later, another doorbell and another knock on the door and everything. And soon the house is filled with people of all ages there to celebrate their granny's 100th birthday. And out comes the granny, and everybody claps and wishes her a happy birthday. And here in Greece, we say, may you reach 100 years of age, but she was 100 already, so what could they say? They just said, may happy returns, mommy and granny, and etc. They kissed her. May we have you for many more years. And they sat around the table, dinner was served, and then the cake. Now, the family has cut the cake, congratulated the granny. Dishes are passed among them, and there's this little kid eating his cake from the plate in front of him when his eye catches Death at the corner. He takes his dish and his spoon, and he goes there and he says, it's Granny's birthday, you must eat some cake. I do not eat cake. But it's Granny's birthday, everybody has cake, you must have some cake. No. Granny! There is Granny by his side. What is it, my love? It's that fellow over there. He doesn't want to have cake, Granny, and it's your birthday. Look what you've done now. If my grandchild asks you to have some cake, you have some cake, all right? And she's off. So, the lad, he takes a dish. He fills a good spoonful and says, eat. So Death opens up his bony jaw. In comes the spoon. Glub, 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 glub. Every bone on his body until splash between his legs. Have some more. And there he is feeding the poor lad. Well, around the table, everybody has forgotten about this, and they are deep in conversation, and there are jokes and stories and laughter. When at some point, the granny looks at the corner and sees that Death is surrounded by a whole bunch of kids of every age having a competition about who is going to feed Death more. And in between his legs, there's a mashed, I cannot describe, indescribable mass of food, one on top of another on a disgusting pile. And she says, time for music. Let's dance. So the food is taken back to the kitchen, dishes are in the sink, table goes to one side and chairs, they make room, and there is music. And the old lady goes to Death, and she catches his hand in hers and pulls him. Let's dance. And she puts her arm on his bony shoulder, and he puts his bony fingers around her waist, her other hand in his. And they look at each other and they start swirling around with the music. Death looks at her, she looks at him, and his eyes, or where his eyes should be, and they continue swirling and twirling around the floor, and everybody has made room for them. Everybody's staring, and once the dance is over, everybody claps, well done, and then everybody joins in, of course, and they all dance together. And then time has passed, and it's time for the family to bid their granny farewell. So they kiss her, again wish her a very happy birthday and many happy returns. And when everybody's gone, it's just her and Death. Thank you, dearest. Thank you for waiting and giving me this opportunity to celebrate with my family. It's okay, we can go now. Old lady, I have had a great time. In fact, I cannot remember the last time in my non-life that I've had such a great time. You are not to come with me, for I will be here again next year for your next party. Well, what could the old lady say? All right, lovely, thank you. And he was gone. So next year, on her 101st birthday, there was Death, celebrating with all of her family, the two of them dancing around the floor. On the 102nd birthday, the same. Now, in my story, this happens on her 103rd birthday, but because of the real old lady on my island, I'd like to make it her 104th birthday. And there is Death after the celebration is done, and the granny has celebrated her 104th birthday, that she says, I am ready now. Let's go, please, dear. And she takes his hand, and they walk up that path together. Well, the old lady does, because Death is sliding at her side. And nobody ever saw them again. At least the old lady. Thank you.
That's lovely, Spina. Thank you very much. So we have next Friday, we have it's Angham Dams on the 20th of February. She's doing the kids' story at 6 o'clock. I'm going to be inviting. It's Davis, isn't it? It's Angela Davis who's doing it. And then Semine has got her storytelling round at 12:30, and that's Personal Stories UK time. Then Elsa Benrat Darwin is doing the stories the week after that, at Saturday. It's up that the storytelling round is next week, which is wrong. The next one will be the 29th. Well, it must be a leap year this year. I've only just thought about it. It must be a leap year. So that Sunday will be the 29th. So we're having a leap year for that. But we're having a special occasion. It's going to be on the 15th of March. And if we can get this together, Jim Buell and I, now Jim is the American, he's from Pennsylvania State in America. He does a story round about the same time we've worked out for the USA Northeast Storytelling Guild. And so we're going to try and coordinate the two story rounds together and do it all at the same time. It'd be 1 o'clock or so over there, whatever it is. So if you could put the 15th of March in your diaries, I'd be really grateful if you could make it. It should be around the same time as we do now on a Sunday evening, but we'll keep an eye on that and see what's happening.
Mike,
And Mike,
Yeah.
there is
Go
no
on.
29th this year. It'll be the 1st of March.
Right. It's
Yeah.
Sunday, the 1st of March then. Okay.
the next leap year, I think, is the 28th, 2028.
Right. So it's the 1st of March. So I've just looked at my phone. There must be something wrong there. Okay. So it's the 1st of March. Right. So that's it. I would also like to say, as I can see the old bugger, that Baden Pinch Jr. has been booked at Fate this year, and Fate is in Herefordshire at the Bromyard Folk Festival site at Bromyard. So for those of you who don't know, that Bromyard is a beautiful city, a village town. It's not a city, and it's very famous for lots of things. One of them is making cider. Should just be warned. Okay, and cider in the UK, Bane's got alcohol in it. The cider you have in America is just apple juice.
It depends. Soft cider is apple juice. Hard cider has alcohol.
Right. Okay. Right. So we've got one more story left then, and that's my friend Mona, who's going to finish up for tonight. And you were
Can
thinking,
I tell-
you were thinking,
Can I please?
go on.
Sorry, can you please say a word to Baden before Ron starts, dear Mike?
Of course.
Go on.
Thank you, Rona. So, Baden, if you look at my face a bit greenish, it is not what you think. I'm not envious at all that you're there with the Vita and I'm not. Not that. And look, if I turn off my camera, you'll see myself telling tales there, and you are somewhere among the audience, dear Baden. Look. Thank you, Rona.
There you go, darling. Okay, and this is just I think a couple of you probably have heard this story before, but I was determined to come on and do something anyway. I'm trying to get my head back on, and I'm doing okay now. So here goes. Oh, she was a beautiful young woman. Oh, gosh. She was stunningly beautiful, and she knew it. But there was nothing more to her. That was it. She was just a very beautiful young woman who used to wander about the souk all day, asking people, do you think it will be today when my knight in shining armour will come and whisk me off my feet? And some people thought she was a bit simple, and others, felt sorry for her, and some were quite angered by her. But this went on day after day, week after week, month after month. She was about 19 years old, and she had been doing this for at least 3 years. And the one person who was furious at this young woman was the fortune teller. And when she reached the fortune teller's tent on this particular day and said again, do you think it will be today when my knight in shining armour will come and sweep me off my feet and take me to a better life? She just lost it, the fortune teller, and she said, you stupid imbecile of a girl. What on earth makes you think that you deserve to be swept off your feet to a better life? You have done nothing to support your family, to help people. You're not kind. You don't, you're all about you. And she was quite taken aback. I am kind. I'm a good person. I've always been kind. She had never been kind to anybody in her life. And she said, I've got a good heart. The fortune teller looked at her and said, you've got a good heart? Show me. And unbelievably, when the young woman pulled her blouse back, her heart was exposed, and it was perfect, pink, pulsating, a beautiful specimen. See what I mean, said the fortune teller. It's perfect. Yes, I know. That's why I deserve. Whoa, hold on a minute. Perfect to look at, said the fortune teller. Do you want to see what a perfect heart really looks like? And she pulled back her blouse, and her heart was exposed. And oh, it was grotesque. It was blue, it was purple, it was black. There was bits sticking out, bits sticking in. There was holes in it. It was horrendous. And the young woman shrank back and said, oh my goodness. What has happened? What have you done? Have you been a bad person? Why is your heart like that? And the fortune teller says, when was the last time you told your mother you loved her? And the young woman said, well, I don't need to tell my mother I love her. She knows. Oh, she knows, does she? So when you leave the house every morning and leave your mother there with your siblings to do all the housework, all the cooking, all the cleaning, she knows you love her? Well, I'm sure she does. I'm sure she knows I love her. And the fortune teller said, you don't love anybody but yourself. Do you know all these holes in my heart and these bits sticking in and these bits sticking out? That's because I've given a piece of my heart to somebody. And they've given me a piece back. And it might have been a bit bigger, or it might have been a bit smaller. It might not have fitted perfectly. And so all the times that I've given away a piece of my heart because I've shown some love to somebody, this is what happens. So just let's imagine that your knight in shining armour turns up tomorrow and wants to give you some love. Where is it going to go? What do you mean? Just says, well, your perfect heart, there's nowhere for it to go. You have to give some love before you can receive it. Oh, I understand now. Can I give you some love? Why would you want to give me some love? Well, because you're the only person that's ever helped me. You're the only person that's told me what I've been doing wrong. And I want to change that. I want to start giving some love so that I can receive some love. And by now, the fortune teller is beginning to feel a little bit sorry for her. She knows that this girl is just stupid. That's about it. She's not bad. She's just stupid. So she says, fine, give me a piece of your heart and I'll give you a piece of mine. And she did. And the young girl looked at her not so perfect heart now, with a piece sticking out that didn't really fit. And she says, now, I've got room in my heart for when my knight in shining armour comes. Did that young lady's knight in shining armour ever come and whisk her off her feet? Well, that's another story for another time.
Oh, Rona, that's lovely. It's a lovely story and it's well told. Thank you for being here. It's lovely to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Rona,
Right, so
you
it's-
never disappoint.
No, absolutely. Right, so it's Angela Davis on the 20th. Sanim's got her personal storytelling thing on the 21st of February at 12:30 UK time. And it's Usha Benratarin. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And when I say her, I will apologise. She's doing this kids story round on the Friday the 27th. The next story round is the 1st of March. And on the 15th, if all goes well, Jim Ball and I will be doing a joint one. And if you can make it to that, that would be even wonderful and fantastic. Thank you for being here. Thank you particularly to Braden and Avita, who I can still see still in the cafe. And it's looking as if it's closed and it's got colder and you're there by yourselves or someone is there to show you out. And thank you very much for sticking around. And good night, Wally.
Thank
It was
you.
a fortnight ago I was sat there and yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for being here and doing all this. It's lovely to see you all again. And we'll be looking to, the festival time is beginning to approach. We're having a day in spring on the 21st up here in Shropshire, and then there's the East Anglia, there's us, there's Fate, there's all the other storytellers around and everything else. And I'll be at Whitby. I'm back at Whitby again this year for those. Keith in particular is one of the places I see you at. And lovely to see you all here again and have a jolly good rest of your evening. Thank you for
Lots
being
of
here.
love.
Good
Take
evening,
care.
good night, good morning,
See
good
you all.
afternoon.
God
Bye-bye.
bless. Bye.
Bye.
Especially to Benjamin. He just stole the show. I mean, yes, especially to Benjamin. I really appreciated that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everyone,
well, that worked out for
Bye.
us.
continue to
Okay,
choose
bye-bye,
to be a
bye-bye.
great day.
Okay.
Get well soon, Roisin. And Keith, it's good to see you looking better.
Yeah. Okay,
See you,
mate.
Mike.
Ta-ra.
Lots of love. Bye, Babasi.
Take care until the next time.
Yep.
Thanks, Waleed.